All right, you guys have pestered me enough, so I'm breaking down and doing it. Today, we're gonna make some pickled quail eggs. Hey guys, welcome back to another slightly rednecked video. Again, my name's Chris, and if you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And today we are making pickled quail eggs. And I've got to be honest, I've never had pickled quail eggs really. I made them one time. I didn't like them, but I don't know if that was because it was a bad recipe or if I just don't like pickled quail eggs. But I get so many questions about pickled quail eggs, we just got to try it again. We just got to do it, show you a recipe for pickled quail eggs. Now what I'm going to be using today is a recipe that I've used for pickled jalapenos in the past. Should be good. As with most canning recipes, you can change the spices up however you want to. If you don't like garlic, don't put it in. If you like lots of garlic, put more in. That stuff's fine. You can change that up however you want. Do not change the water to vinegar ratio, the brine ratio itself. That must stay consistent. So what I've done is I've got a bunch of quail eggs here. I've already hard boiled and peeled. And I've got a mixture of spices and things which we'll go through. The brine I'm using is going to be half apple cider vinegar, half white vinegar, and then some water. Actually, it's not half and half. It's 2/3 vinegar, 1/3 water. Now I'm only going to be doing probably one jar, so we're looking at not even 2 cups worth of brine probably. I'm going to go ahead and do it in 2 cups. So that would be, let's see, that would be 2/3, so 1 1/3 cup of vinegar. And again, half and half apple cider, white vinegar. You could use all white, you could use all apple cider, but 1 1/3 cups of vinegar. And then that would be 2/3 of a cup of water. Make sure my mouth is right on that. 1 cup, 1/3. Yes, that's right. So make sure you keep it 2/3 vinegar, 1/3 water. You can go more vinegar if you want. Don't go less. That's what's going to make them safe. Now, I will also say before we get going that I'm not going to be canning these to make them shelf stable. I'm going to be just making one jar. I'm going to stick them in the fridge. So we're not going to be water bath canning them or anything like that. And I will say I probably made a mistake. I'm probably wrong on something. But I've told you guys many times in the past, or many of you anyway, that there's no approved way to can pickled eggs at home and make them shelf stable because of the risk of botulism. Now, I'm not going to completely take that back. That is true. There's not really an approved recipe for it, but you know, I've done a little bit of research on this. I've been looking it up because I get so many questions about it, and I've said it so many times. And it's true. The National Center for Food Preservation does recommend against canning pickled quail eggs and trying to store them on the shelf. But at the same time, there are, tons of people doing them. And as far as I know, there's only really been one reported case of botulism from pickled eggs. And I believe that was a guy that he didn't can them at all. He just like put them in a jar, poured brine over the top of them, and then like set them on the shelf or something like that. So, you know, as long as you're following, proper canning procedures, you're probably going to be okay. You know, again, it's not an approved recipe, so you're taking a risk there. Botulism is a serious thing. Serious thing. It's one of the most toxic things on the planet. And actually, it occurs all around us. But the risk with eggs and the thought behind why eggs are not safe to can at home is because botulism thrives in a low acid, low oxygen environment. Now, we are going to be brining these with 2/3 of vinegar, 1/3 water. That's high acid, but yet eggs are not completely porous. So the thought is that the brine does not get all the way to the center of the egg, and therefore the center of the egg could be a breeding ground for botulism. Now, 2 things I think about that. One is quail eggs are pretty small. It's probably a bigger risk with chicken eggs than it is with quail eggs. Secondly, again, I don't really know that there's been any cases of botulism other than the one. And so many people do it, it's probably okay. So if you wanted to can these and you wanted to make them shelf stable, again, you're doing so at your own risk. Don't blame me if something goes wrong with that. And something going wrong, if botulism will kill you. So you're taking a risk with it. I don't mean to scare you with it because again, hundreds and hundreds of people do it all the time, probably thousands actually. And nobody's getting botulism. So it's probably okay to go ahead and do. The way you would do that is you would do a water bath canning. You would just do it like you would pickles. So any kind of cucumber, if you're pickling cucumbers, pickling okra, pickling, what else can you pickle? Zucchini, just about anything you pickle. For quart jars, you're going to water bath can for 15 minutes. And for pint jars, you would water bath can for 10 minutes. And if you need help on that, I've got a video. I'll link it right up here, or maybe on this side. I can't remember which side it comes up on. One of these sides, there'll be a link for the video. Home Canning Basics walks you through how to water bath can. It's pretty easy, really, so don't panic about that. But again, do so at your own risk. Whether it's a serious risk or not, I don't know. I used to think that it was, don't do it. The risk of botulism is so great. But, after looking into it a little bit more, I kind of think it's probably okay. You're probably going to be okay. Either way, I'm not going to be canning these. It's just one jar. I'm not so sure I'm going to like them. We're going to try and see. I'm sure this recipe is good because I've used it to pickle other things and they all turn out great. So we'll just see how it goes with this. If I end up really liking them, then maybe I'll venture into canning them at some other point. But anyway, so enough with all that disclaimers. Just get that out of the way. So again, what we're going to be using, let's get our brine going first. Again, I've already hard-boiled the eggs. If you need to know how to hard-boil quail eggs, just bring a pot of water to boil, put your quail eggs in there. Probably good to stir them around a little bit for the first minute or so. It keeps the eggs from going to one side of the egg, or the yolks, from going one side of the egg or another. Kind of keeps it centered in the egg. And you just hard boil them for 4 minutes, and then move them to an ice bath, cool them off, peel them. They're a little bit of a pain to peel, but anyway, I've done all that, so you didn't have to watch me do it on video. I've got a couple of cloves of garlic here. The recipe I use for my jalapenos, and there's a couple other things I pickle with this recipe. Calls for 1 clove of garlic per jar. 1 clove of garlic's never enough. I'm putting 3 in. So that's what we're going with. I've got a hot pepper because I like spice. And this is my go-to jalapeno pickling recipe, so I figured why not throw a jalapeno in there with it. And all I'm going to do to prepare the hot pepper is just cut the stem of it off and leave it kind of open like that. That way the spice can get into the mix. I find sometimes if you leave them just whole, it just doesn't seem to permeate the brine. So that's going to go in the jar. I'm going to throw my pieces of garlic in the jar. We'll come back and do our spices here in a minute. Let's get our brine going. So again, I'm going to use 1 1/3 cup of vinegar. So 2/3 white vinegar, 2/3 of apple cider vinegar. So let me get this going here. See what I'm doing. There we go. There's 2/3. We're going to use 2/3 of apple cider. I really like the flavor of apple cider vinegar. Again, you could go with all white vinegar if you wanted to. See where I'm at. There we go. All right, and then 2/3 of a cup of water. So let me get some water in here real quick. And then that just goes into my pot that I've got on the stove here. We're going to turn that on, get that up and boiling. Now, let's see. What was I going to say? I've lost track. Oh, I know what I was going to say. You could, if you don't like the taste of vinegar, I mean, if you don't like a real vinegary brine, you can add a little bit of sugar to this, probably somewhere around a tablespoon, maybe to a quart jar. That will help kind of mellow out that vinegar a little bit. I'm not going to do that. You could go all vinegar if you wanted to. If you really like it sour, or really like that bite of vinegar, you could go all vinegar and leave the water out completely. All right, so let me bring you in close here, and we'll start getting our jars ready. All right, first thing we're going to do is I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Again, this is canning, pickling salt, kosher salt. Actually, this is canning and pickling, but you could use canning, pickling, or kosher salt either way. 1/2 teaspoon of that. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of black peppercorn. Let me get that going. 1/2 teaspoon of black peppercorn, so just whole black peppercorn. Then we're going to go with a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin seed. All that can be just mixed right into the jar. And finally, a 1/4 teaspoon of coriander seed. And that's pretty much it. And actually, now that I think about that, I think this recipe is for pint jars. We're doing a quart, so I'm going to double up on my spices. Sorry about that. Should have done that to begin with. So instead of a 1/4 teaspoon, it's a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin seed, a 1/2 teaspoon of coriander seed, a full teaspoon of black peppercorn, and a full teaspoon of canning salt, kosher salt, either one. There we go. So now we can start putting our eggs in there. There's nothing special about that. Just drop the eggs in. I don't know if I've got enough to fill up this jar, if there's going to be too many. I don't know exactly how many I have. That egg does not look good. Kind of broken. I think I'll leave it out. I didn't count these eggs. I don't know exactly how many there are. Just a bunch. It's what I had on hand, so that's what's going in the jar. And it doesn't have to be completely full. We can probably could have got away with a pint jar actually now that I look at it. So we're only doing half a jar, but that's okay. Again, if I like them, you know what, I'm gonna throw the ugly egg in there. If I don't like, or if I like them, then we'll start saving up eggs and do a bigger jar later. If we don't like them, it's no great loss. And our brine is starting to boil, so we're gonna be able to get this jar filled up here pretty quick. Okay, something else that would be really good in here would be a bay leaf. If you have a bay leaf, I don't have any bay leaves, so I'm not using a bay leaf today. All right, get my funnel going, get my ladle, my hot brine, and then we're just gonna ladle that over the eggs, and we would fill that up. Now, if you were gonna can these and make them shelf stable, you would wanna fill the jar up with eggs. You wouldn't wanna do a half jar like I'm doing right now. And you'd wanna fill this up to, and I'm still gonna fill it up pretty much to the top, about a 1/2 inch head space at the top of the jar. I'm gonna take the rest of it. If I had a full jar of pickle or of eggs, that would be more than enough brine to fill the jar all the way up. But since I don't, that's what we get. Now, I don't need to go through anything special here because, again, these are just going to be refrigerator pickled eggs. So I don't need to do anything special to them. I'm going to let them sit here until they cool off, and then they're going to go in the fridge. Well, there we go. There's a jar of pickled quail eggs. And again, it's not a full jar, but just an experiment, see how I like them or not. Now, unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to tell you guys for a while because these need to go in the fridge and they need to sit for probably a week, maybe 2 weeks actually, before you break into them and start eating them. If you're not canning them, like you're not gonna water bath can them, you're just gonna put them in the fridge like I do, you need to use them up, or if you do water bath can them and they don't seal, use them up, just keep them in the fridge, do not keep them on the counter, make sure they're refrigerated, and use them up within about a month and a half. You know, if you go, you can probably go 2 months actually and you'll be just fine. That's about it to pickling eggs. It's pretty easy. Mix with the spices. If you've got a favorite recipe for your pickled eggs, leave it down below. Let me know. If this one doesn't turn out very good, I may give that one a try. If I still don't like them, I don't know. I may just give up on pickled eggs completely. But anyway, so many of you guys have asked. There it is. That's how you pickled eggs. You can mix the spices up however you want. A couple of things I think might be really good in here. You could do dill like you would with dill pickles. I think that would be pretty good. Let's see what else would be good. Cajun spices, so that would be like a crab boil, something like that. You could use that in your jars to spice the eggs with. I think that would be pretty good. Lots of different things you could do with it. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, God bless.